My name is Scarlett, and I am 57 years old. After my husband passed, I moved in with my son Justin and his wife Amanda. During our regular Sunday family lunch, my phone vibrated with a message from an unknown number. When I glanced down, my heart skipped. "Don't react. They're recording you." I kept smiling and eating as fear twisted inside me. Later that night, while everyone slept, I discovered something unimaginable. Let me know where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to hear how I uncovered the terrifying truth behind this warning. The sunlight streamed through the kitchen windows of my Victorian-style home on Maple Street, the same home where I had raised my only son, Justin. The yellow curtains that John, my late husband, had helped me hang 32 years ago still framed the windows. Those curtains had witnessed our entire life together until cancer took John from us 5 years ago. The kitchen walls still held the pencil marks tracking Justin's height throughout childhood memories I couldn't bring myself to paint over. After John died, the 3-bedroom house felt enormous for just me. I continued working as an elementary school teacher for a while, finding solace in the innocent laughter of my 3rd-grade students. But retirement came 2 years ago, right around when Justin suggested that he and Amanda move in with me. "It makes sense, Mom," Justin had said, his blue eyes so much like his father's. "You shouldn't be alone in this big house, and Amanda and I could save money for our own place later." At 55, I wasn't ready for a retirement home, but I welcomed the company and the chance to be closer to my son. Justin, now 34, had inherited his father's tall frame and gentle demeanor. He worked as an accountant at a local firm, always meticulous with numbers just like John had been. Amanda, 33, worked in real estate with her father, Richard. She had sleek brown hair, always perfectly styled designer clothes, and a habit of tapping her long manicured nails when she was thinking or annoyed, which seemed to happen often around me. The first few months were pleasant enough. Justin commuted to work while Amanda often worked from home, showing properties in the afternoons. I spent my days tending to my garden, participating in my book club, and volunteering at the local library. But gradually, things began to change. One day, I came home to find my living room rearranged. The antique coffee table John had restored was replaced with a modern glass one. The family photos on the mantel were rearranged with several of John missing. "Oh, I thought the room needed freshening up," Amanda explained when I asked. "Those old frames were collecting dust, and this arrangement opens up the space." Her tone left no room for discussion. Over the following months, more changes appeared without consultation. My cookbooks disappeared from the kitchen counter, replaced by sleek appliances I didn't know how to use. The guest bedroom where I kept my crafting supplies was transformed into Amanda's home office. Each time, the explanation was about modernizing or optimizing space. My friends started visiting less frequently. Diane from my book club mentioned feeling unwelcome after Amanda suggested they were interrupting her work calls. Martha, my friend of 30 years, stopped coming for tea after Amanda commented on her outdated fashion sense. My weekly bridge group eventually relocated to Nancy's house without explicitly saying why. "Your friends are so loud," Amanda complained one evening. "Justin needs his rest after work." Justin rarely contradicted his wife. When I brought up concerns, he would smile tiredly and say, "Amanda just wants what's best for everyone, Mom. You know how passionate she gets about having things a certain way." I started spending more time in my bedroom or garden to avoid confrontation. The house that had once been my sanctuary now felt like foreign territory where I was merely a guest. My routine became more isolated. I would wake early to enjoy coffee alone before Amanda emerged. I learned to move quietly to take up less space. My library volunteering and gardening became refuges rather than mere hobbies. A strange pattern emerged with my personal belongings. My reading glasses would disappear, only to be found in unusual places like the freezer or linen closet. My gardening shoes would vanish for days. My cell phone charger relocated regularly. When I mentioned these oddities, Amanda would exchange glances with Justin. "Mom, are you sure you didn't put them there yourself?" Justin would ask gently. "You have been a bit forgetful lately." Had I become forgetful? I began doubting myself, wondering if grief over John had affected my memory more than I realized. I started keeping a journal noting where I placed important items. The financial discussions began 6 months ago. Amanda broached the subject of my will during dinner. "Scarlett, have you updated your estate planning since John passed?" she asked casually, as though inquiring about the weather. "John and I had everything arranged," I replied. "The house goes to Justin along with our savings. There's not much else." Amanda nodded too enthusiastically. "But there's the matter of the vacation property in Maine, right? And John's life insurance went to you, not Justin directly." I was surprised she knew these details. The cottage in Maine had been our special getaway, a small place on a quiet lake where John and I had spent summers. And yes, there was the insurance money which I had invested on the advice of our longtime financial advisor, Walter. "Those things are covered too," I said cautiously. Justin cleared his throat. "Mom, Amanda and I were thinking it might be good to review everything with our lawyer. Financial planning is so important these days." "Their lawyer, not mine." I felt a chill despite the warm kitchen. "I'm comfortable with Walter handling things as he always has," I replied. Amanda's smile tightened. "Walter is nearing retirement age himself. Our guy is young, forward-thinking, and family should handle family matters, don't you think?" The pressure continued over weeks. Pamphlets about estate planning appeared on my nightstand. Justin mentioned friends whose parents had protected their assets through trusts managed by their children. Amanda shared horror stories about elderly people losing everything to scammers. I found myself increasingly uncomfortable in conversations about money, my future, or my health. Each discussion left me feeling diminished, as though my lifetime of careful planning and decision-making suddenly counted for nothing. One evening, I overheard Amanda on the phone in the kitchen. "It's taking longer than we thought," she was saying quietly. "She's surprisingly sharp about the financial stuff, but we're making progress on documenting the memory issues." When I entered the kitchen, she quickly ended the call. "Just talking to Mom about the open house tomorrow," she said brightly. Her mother Diane was also in real estate, and they often collaborated. That night, lying in bed beneath the quilt John's mother had made for our wedding, I stared at the ceiling and wondered if I was being paranoid or if something truly wasn't right in my own home. The Sunday family lunch had become a tradition since Justin and Amanda moved in, often expanding to include Amanda's family. This particular Sunday in late September, Amanda had invited her parents, Richard and Diane Thompson, and her younger sister, Brooke. I spent the morning preparing pot roast John's old recipe with rosemary and red wine. The familiar routine of chopping carrots and potatoes was soothing, giving my hands something to do while my mind wandered. The kitchen filled with aromas that reminded me of happier times when John would sneak tastes while I wasn't looking. By noon, the dining room table was set with my grandmother's china, something Amanda had initially suggested we sell at a garage sale, calling it outdated and taking up storage space. I had refused one of the few times I had firmly stood my ground. The doorbell rang at 12:30. Richard Thompson entered first, a tall man with graying hair and the confident stride of someone accustomed to being in charge. His real estate company was one of the largest in our small city. Diane followed, her bleached blonde hair styled impeccably, wearing a cream pantsuit that probably cost more than a month of my pension. Brooke trailed behind, glued to her phone, only offering a distracted "hey" in my direction. "Something smells wonderful, Scarlett," Richard said, handing me a bottle of wine I suspected was regifted from a client. "The house looks tidy." Diane added, her gaze sweeping critically over my living room. "Amanda must be keeping things organized for you." Justin emerged from upstairs, greeting his in-laws warmly, while Amanda fussed over last-minute preparations in the kitchen, rearranging the serving dishes I had already set out. We settled around the dining table with Richard taking John's old place at the head without hesitation. The conversation flowed around me rather than with me focusing on Amanda's recent big sale, Justin's potential promotion, and Brooke's college applications. "Scarlett," Richard said suddenly during a lull. "Amanda tells me you've been having some troubles keeping track of things lately." I paused mid-bite, surprised by the direct comment. "I occasionally misplace things, but nothing unusual for someone my age." Diane nodded sympathetically, but her eyes were calculating. "It starts small, doesn't it? My mother was the same way before we had to move her into Silver Pines." Silver Pines was an assisted living facility on the outskirts of town known for its high costs and clinical atmosphere. "I'm nowhere near needing that kind of care," I said firmly. Amanda laughed lightly. "Mom's just saying it's good to plan ahead. Silver Pines has a waiting list, you know. We should at least tour it." "I've been thinking," Richard continued swirling his wine, "that it might be prudent to look at establishing a family trust for your assets, Scarlett, to protect them as you age." "My assets are already properly managed," I replied, feeling increasingly uncomfortable. "But under your sole control," Diane pointed out. "What happens if your memory issues progress? No offense, but we've seen how you've struggled lately." Justin remained silent, studying his plate. I glanced at him, hoping for support, but he avoided my eyes. "Justin and Amanda are young," Richard continued. "They need to establish themselves. The liquidity from your investments and property could help them tremendously while ensuring you're properly cared for." The conversation felt rehearsed, as though they had discussed this many times without me. Amanda nodded encouragingly, while Brooke remained absorbed in her phone, occasionally smirking at something on the screen that I had the unsettling feeling might be related to our conversation. "I appreciate the concern," I said carefully, "but I'm quite capable of managing my affairs." "Of course you are," Amanda said soothingly in the tone one might use with a child. "We just want what's best for everyone." "Remember when you put your car keys in the refrigerator last week?" Diane asked. "Justin mentioned you were quite confused about it." I had no recollection of doing any such thing. I looked at Justin, who finally met my eyes with an apologetic shrug that confirmed he had indeed told them this fabricated story. My phone vibrated in my pocket. Normally, I would never check messages during a meal, but the intensity of the conversation made me desperate for a moment's distraction. Discreetly, I glanced at the screen under the table. The message from an unknown number read, "Don't react. They're recording you. Smile and keep eating. Meet me at Maple Coffee Shop tomorrow at 3 p.m. My heart pounded so loudly I was certain everyone could hear it. Recording me. I glanced around the dining room, seeing nothing obvious, then at the faces around the table. Brooke's phone was positioned in a way that could potentially be filming. Amanda kept exchanging meaningful glances with her parents. With trembling hands, I put my phone away and forced a smile. "This pot roast turned out well, don't you think?" "It was John's favorite recipe." "Speaking of John," Richard seamlessly continued, "did he ever discuss with you how to manage the estate if your condition declined? He was always such a forward-thinking man." I maintained my smile while feeling like I might be sick. "John trusted me completely with our financial decisions, as I trust Walter, our financial advisor of 25 years. "Walter is practically ancient now," Amanda interjected. "He still uses paper files, Mom. That's not how modern financial planning works." The conversation continued in this vein throughout dessert, a berry cobbler I had baked that morning. I nodded, smiled, and gave non-committal answers while my mind raced with questions. Who sent that text? How would they know I was being recorded? Why would my family record me? After the meal, as everyone moved to the living room for coffee, I excused myself briefly. In the privacy of the bathroom, I examined the message again. The number had no identifying information. I considered calling it, but feared whoever was watching might notice. When I returned, Richard was showing Justin something on a tablet, speaking in hushed tones. They stopped abruptly when I entered the room. "Just looking at some investment opportunities," Richard explained too quickly. The afternoon dragged on endlessly. I poured coffee, passed cookies, and participated in conversation while feeling increasingly paranoid. Every laugh seemed forced, every glance significant. Was Amanda's purse positioned to record me? Why did Richard keep steering the conversation toward my daily routine and financial matters? When they finally left at 4:30, I felt exhausted from maintaining my facade of normalcy. Justin immediately disappeared upstairs while Amanda cleaned up, refusing my offers of help. "You seem tired, Scarlett," she said. "Why don't you rest? You're looking a bit confused again." Alone in my bedroom that evening, I examined the mysterious text repeatedly. Was it a wrong number? A cruel prank? Or was someone truly trying to warn me? The mention of Maple Coffee Shop seemed specific, not random. It was a place I frequented just 3 blocks from our house. I decided I would go tomorrow. What choice did I have? If someone was trying to help me, I needed to know. And if it was nothing, I had only wasted an afternoon. That night, sleep eluded me. The house creaked and settled as it had for decades, but now every sound seemed sinister. Were their eyes watching me even now? The text message glowed in the darkness as I checked it one final time. "Don't react. They're recording you." With those words echoing in my mind, I finally drifted into an uneasy sleep. Sleep proved impossible. At 2 in the morning, I lay awake staring at the ceiling fan slowly rotating above my bed. The mysterious text message replayed in my mind like a broken record. "Don't react. They're recording you." Those 7 words had shattered my sense of security in my own home. After tossing and turning for another hour, I made a decision. If someone was recording me, there had to be cameras. And if there were cameras, I could find them. I slipped out of bed, careful not to make the floorboards creak. Justin and Amanda's bedroom was at the opposite end of the hallway, but I couldn't risk waking them. I grabbed my phone to use as a flashlight, keeping the brightness at its lowest setting. Where would someone hide cameras? I'd read somewhere that camera lenses might reflect light. I began a systematic search of my bedroom, moving the phone's light slowly across the walls, ceiling, and furniture. Nothing in the corners of the ceiling, nothing behind the picture frames, nothing in the air vent. I was beginning to feel foolish when a tiny reflection caught my eye. There, nestled in the artificial plant Amanda had insisted would brighten up the room, was a small black device no bigger than a button. My blood ran cold. With shaking fingers, I gently pushed aside the leaves for a better look. It was definitely a camera positioned to capture my entire bedroom. I fought the urge to rip it out immediately. If the message was right, I needed to pretend I hadn't discovered anything yet. The bathroom was next. Moving methodically through the small space, I eventually found another camera hidden in the decorative soap dispenser Amanda had given me for my birthday. It faced the shower directly. The violation made me physically ill, and I gripped the counter to steady myself. My suspicions now fully aroused, I continued through the house, careful to avoid the creaky 3rd step on the staircase. The living room yielded 2 more cameras, one in the digital clock on the mantel, and another in the smoke detector. The kitchen had a camera in the coffee maker, a new model Amanda had insisted on buying, despite my preference for my old one. My heart pounded as I approached Justin and Amanda's bedroom door. I hesitated, listening for any sounds of movement. Hearing nothing but soft snoring, I bypassed their room and headed to Justin's home office, a converted guest room that he always kept locked. The lock was simple, and years ago, Justin had shown me where he kept a spare key taped under his desk drawer. I prayed it was still there. My fingers found the small key exactly where I remembered. With trembling hands, I unlocked the door and slipped inside. Justin's office was meticulously organized, just like his father had kept his spaces. The computer was off, but various papers were arranged neatly on the desk. I didn't dare turn on the main light, instead using my phone to examine the room. A laptop sat closed on the desk. Next to it was something that made my heart sink further, a small box labeled SC Surveillance. SC, Scarlett Collins, my initials. I opened the box and found several more tiny cameras identical to the ones I'd already discovered throughout the house. There was also a USB drive and a notebook. I opened the notebook to find dates and times listed in Justin's neat handwriting. September 3rd. SC placed car keys in freezer, 8:37 a.m. September 7th. SC talked to herself in garden for 20 minutes, 4:15 p.m. September 12th. SC forgot to turn off stove, 7:42 p.m. September 15th. SC couldn't remember Amanda's mother's name during conversation, 6:23 p.m. None of these things had happened. I had never put my keys in the freezer or forgotten Diane's name, even though I occasionally wished I could. I had certainly never left the stove on. After 30 years of cooking, such habits were deeply ingrained. My hands shook as I flipped through more pages of fabricated incidents. This was evidence being manufactured to make me appear mentally incompetent. Beside the notebook was a folder labeled SC Finances. Inside, I found copies of my bank statements, investment reports, and even a draft document entitled Petition for Guardianship. There were also printouts of emails between Justin and someone named Patricia Lawson at Griffin Law Offices discussing the Collins competency case. They were planning to legally take control of my finances, my property, and essentially my life. A third folder contained information about Silver Pines assisted living, including pricing packages and admission requirements. One page was marked with a yellow sticky note, Private Room, $7,200 month. Collins' estate can cover 15-plus years. The betrayal cut deeper than I could have imagined. My own son was documenting false evidence to have me declared incompetent. My daughter-in-law was planting cameras to record me in my most private moments. They were preparing to ship me off to a facility while they took control of everything John and I had worked for throughout our lives. As I carefully replaced everything exactly as I had found it, another discovery made my blood freeze. Behind the desk, partially hidden by a filing cabinet, was a whiteboard with a timeline sketched out. It detailed a 6-month plan beginning with document memory issues and ending with finalized guardianship and property transfer. According to this timeline, they were planning to have me declared incompetent within 2 months. I closed and locked the office door, then made my way back to my bedroom, careful to behave normally in view of any cameras. Inside, I sat on the edge of my bed, struggling to process what I'd discovered. The text message now made perfect sense. Someone knew what was happening and had warned me, but who and why? Wait until tomorrow to meet when my world was crumbling. Tonight, I noticed something else disturbing as I reviewed my financial papers. Small amounts had been disappearing from my checking account over the past few months, never more than a few $100s at a time. I had attributed it to automatic payments or my own forgetfulness. Now I wondered if Justin had been testing his access to my accounts, seeing what he could take without raising alarms. My mind went back to other troubling incidents that suddenly made sense. Mail from my bank that mysteriously disappeared. Justin offering to help with my online banking passwords because the systems had updated. Amanda suggesting I give her my credit card for convenience when she ran errands. The methodical nature of their plan was chilling. They had been isolating me from friends, controlling my environment, gaslighting me about my memory, and now documenting fabricated evidence while literally recording me in my own home. The question was, what could I do about it? I couldn't confront them without revealing that I knew about the cameras and their plan. I couldn't go to the police without concrete evidence that wouldn't immediately be countered by their claims about my mental state. My only hope seemed to be this mysterious meeting tomorrow. As dawn began to break, I made a decision I would continue to play along pretending I suspected nothing. I would meet this unknown ally and determine my next steps. For now, I needed to appear normal on all those hidden cameras. I wiped away my tears, laid back down, and closed my eyes, pretending to sleep while my mind raced with fear, betrayal, and the first sparks of a determination to fight back. The morning after my disturbing discoveries, I forced myself to maintain my routine. I made coffee, prepared breakfast, and greeted Amanda and Justin with a smile that felt like it might crack my face. Each movement felt mechanical as I hyper-aware of the cameras watching me. "I'm meeting Martha for coffee this afternoon," I announced casually over breakfast, creating an alibi for my meeting with the mysterious texter. Amanda raised an eyebrow. "Martha from your old book club? I thought you two weren't close anymore." "We reconnected recently," I lied, buttering my toast with deliberate calm. "She called last week." Justin barely looked up from his phone. "That's nice, Mom. What time will you be back?" The question seemed loaded now. Were they tracking my movements? Did they have a schedule for when I should be home? "Probably around 5, I said vaguely. "We have a lot to catch up on." Amanda and Justin exchanged a quick glance that I would have missed had I not been looking for it. "Don't forget your medication before you go," Amanda said sweetly. I took only mild blood pressure medication, something that had never affected my cognitive function. But I nodded dutifully, wondering if they had been tampering with my pills as well. I made a mental note to check the prescription when I had privacy. The hours crawled by. Justin left for work, and Amanda disappeared to show properties to clients. Alone in the house, I fought the urge to search for more cameras or evidence. Instead, I acted normally, reading in the living room and working in my garden, all the while feeling unseen eyes tracking my movements. At 2:30, I changed into a simple blouse and slacks, applied minimal makeup, and grabbed my purse. I walked the 3 blocks to Maple Coffee Shop, my mind racing with questions about who might have sent the message and what they knew. The coffee shop was busy with afternoon customers. I ordered a chamomile tea and scanned the room, uncertain who I was looking for. After a few minutes, a woman in her early 60s approached my table. "Scarlett, I'm Margaret Wilson." She was trim with short gray hair and alert brown eyes. "May I join you?" I nodded, studying her face for any sign of familiarity. "Have we met before?" Margaret sat down, placing her coffee cup carefully on the table. "Not formally. I was a home health nurse for Diane Thompson's mother before she passed away last year." "Amanda's grandmother?" I asked, confused about the connection. Margaret leaned forward, lowering her voice. "I need to ask you something important first. Did you find any recording devices in your home?" The direct question startled me. I glanced around to ensure no one was listening before nodding slightly. Margaret's expression tightened. "I suspected as much. I saw the same pattern with Eleanor Diane's mother. The cameras, the documented incidents, the push toward guardianship." "Eleanor. What happened to her?" I asked, a chill running through me. "They had her declared incompetent and moved to Silver Pines within 3 months of installing cameras. 6 months later, they had liquidated most of her assets, including her historic home in Oakwood Heights. She died shortly after, essentially alone." Margaret's eyes reflected genuine sadness. I knew something was wrong, but by the time I pieced it together, it was too late to help Eleanor. "How did you know they're doing the same to me?" I asked. Margaret sipped her coffee before answering. "I overheard Amanda talking to her mother on the phone last week. I was at Richard's office dropping off some medical paperwork for a friend who works there. Amanda mentioned your name and said something about the documentation process going well. It was the exact phrase Diane had used about Eleanor." She pulled out her phone and showed me a news article from 18 months ago. The headline read, "Historic Oakwood home sold for 1.2 M after owner deemed unfit to manage affairs." "The Thompsons specialize in high-value real estate," Margaret continued. "But they also seem to specialize in acquiring properties through less conventional means. Your house on Maple Street is in a prime location, and with property values rising, the pieces fell into place. My home was worth at least $850,000 in the current market. Add that to John's life insurance investments and our retirement savings, and I represented over $1 million in assets." "But my son," I said, my voice breaking. "Why would Justin be part of this?" Margaret's expression softened. "Has Amanda isolated him from his friends? Changed his routines? Does he seem different than before their marriage?" Each question hit like a physical blow because the answer to all of them was yes. Justin had gradually withdrawn from his childhood friends. His weekly basketball games had stopped. He rarely called his cousins anymore. The confident, independent son I had raised had slowly transformed into a shadow of himself, deferring to Amanda in all things. "You think she's manipulating him too?" I asked. "I think the Thompsons have perfected a system," Margaret replied. "And I couldn't live with myself if I let it happen again without trying to warn you." "Why help me?" I asked, still cautious, despite my desperation. "You don't know me." I watched Eleanor decline rapidly after being taken from her home. She died confused and heartbroken. Margaret's voice hardened. "I did nothing then because I didn't have enough information. I have regretted it every day since. When I heard your name and recognized the pattern, I had to act." "How did you get my phone number?" "Your volunteer coordinator at the library is my cousin. I made up a story about returning a book you had recommended." Margaret looked apologetic. "I know it's an invasion of privacy, but I needed to warn you." I took a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves. What can I do? If I confront them, they'll just accelerate their plans. If I go to the police, it will be my word against theirs, and they've been building their case for months. "You need professional help," Margaret said firmly. "I have a friend, Grace Thompson, no relation to Amanda's family. She's an elder law attorney who specializes in cases like yours. She can help you protect yourself legally." How do I know I can trust her, or you for that matter? I asked, years of teaching having instilled a healthy skepticism. Margaret reached into her bag and pulled out a business card. "Call her office directly. Check her credentials. I've also written down my full contact information, including my nursing license number. Verify everything." She slid a second piece of paper across the table. "And this is the contact information for Michael Davis. He's a private investigator who documented similar cases in the past. He can help gather evidence without tipping off your family." I stared at the information, feeling simultaneously overwhelmed and relieved to have potential allies. "The most important thing right now," Margaret continued, "is to continue acting normally. Don't let them know you're aware of their plan. The moment they suspect you know, they might accelerate everything." "How long do I have?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Based on what happened with Eleanor and what I overheard about timeframes, probably a few weeks at most before they make their move." Margaret checked her watch. "We shouldn't stay together too long. They might be tracking your movements." As we prepared to leave, Margaret placed her hand over mine. "Scarlett, you're not alone, and you're not helpless. Eleanor had no warning and no allies. You have both." Walking home, I felt a strange mixture of terror and determination. The people I had trusted most had betrayed me in the most fundamental way possible, but now I knew, and knowledge was power. I would not go quietly to Silver Pines while they dismantled the life John and I had built together. That evening, as I prepared dinner under the watchful eye of hidden cameras, I began mentally formulating my plan. I would need evidence, allies, and courage. Most of all, I would need to outsmart the people who thought they had already won. The next morning, I called Grace Thompson from a payphone near the library, unwilling to risk using my cell phone or home line. The elder law attorney agreed to meet me during her lunch break at a small diner 3 towns over, far from anywhere the Thompsons might have connections. Grace was younger than I expected, perhaps in her mid-40s, with sharp eyes behind stylish glasses and a no-nonsense manner that immediately put me at ease. "Margaret briefed me on your situation," she said after we ordered. "Unfortunately, what you're describing is not uncommon. Elder financial abuse is increasingly sophisticated, especially when perpetrated by family members." "What can I do?" I asked, keeping my voice steady despite the emotion threatening to overwhelm me. Grace opened her leather portfolio. "First, we need to protect your assets immediately. Do you have accounts your son and daughter-in-law don't know about or can't access?" I thought for a moment. "There's a small account in my maiden name that I've maintained since before marrying John. Justin knows it exists but doesn't have access. It has about $20,000. "Good. We'll need to establish a new trust immediately with a trustworthy third party as trustee, not family. I can recommend several professional fiduciaries." She made quick notes. "What about important documents? Birth certificate, marriage license, property, deeds, insurance policies?" "Most are in a safety deposit box at First National Bank. Justin has access, but would need my signature to remove anything." "We need to secure those immediately, today if possible." Grace's tone left no room for debate. "Change the access permissions. Only you should be able to access those documents." She continued outlining legal protections, including a new power of attorney designation, advanced healthcare directives, and a revised will that would specifically exclude Justin and Amanda if they initiated any guardianship proceedings against me. "Isn't that harsh?" I asked, thinking of the little boy who had once drawn me Mother's Day cards with wobbly hearts. Grace's expression softened momentarily. "It's provisional protection. If Justin has been manipulated, as you suspect, these measures can be reversed once he's out from under their influence. But right now, we need to create legal barriers that will make their plan more difficult to execute." By the end of our meeting, I had a comprehensive list of immediate actions and a follow-up appointment scheduled at her office, disguised in my calendar as a dental checkup. Next, I met with Michael Davis, the private investigator Margaret had recommended. He was a former police detective with a specialization in elder abuse cases. "The cameras they've installed give us an advantage," Michael explained in his matter-of-fact manner. "It's illegal to record someone in their bedroom and bathroom without consent. That alone is criminal." "But I need proof that they installed them," I pointed out. Michael nodded. "That's where I come in. I can install counter surveillance that will document them checking or maintaining their cameras. I can also help gather evidence of them falsifying documentation about your mental state." He outlined a plan to place his own hidden cameras in common areas of the house, focused on catching Justin or Amanda interacting with their surveillance equipment. He would also monitor their email communications and phone records through legal channels looking for evidence of their conspiracy. "The goal is to build an airtight case before they realize you know," he explained. "Once we have sufficient evidence, we can involve law enforcement and proceed with both criminal charges and civil protection." The cost was substantial, but as Grace had reminded me, this was quite literally the fight for my life and everything John and I had built together. I authorized the expense from my secure account. My next stop was to see Linda Harris, my friend who had retired from the police force 5 years ago. Linda and I had taught at the same elementary school before she changed careers in her 30s, entering law enforcement and eventually rising to detective. We had maintained our friendship through book club until Amanda had effectively ended that connection. Linda lived in a small ranch house with her 2 golden retrievers. Her eyebrows rose when she opened the door to find me on her porch. "Scarlett Collins, as I live and breathe. I thought you'd fallen off the face of the earth." I managed a weak smile. "Can we talk inside? I need your help, and it needs to be private." Over coffee in her kitchen with the dog snoring at our feet, I explained the entire situation. Linda listened without interruption, her expression growing increasingly grim. "Those conniving little—" She stopped herself, taking a deep breath. "I still have connections at the department. This crosses several legal lines from illegal surveillance to conspiracy to commit fraud. I'm working with a PI and a lawyer," I explained. "But I wanted your advice, too. You know how these cases work from the inside." Linda leaned back in her chair, thinking. Evidence is everything. Without it, it becomes a he said, she said situation, and sadly, in cases involving older adults, courts sometimes favor the younger party's testimony about mental capacity. She outlined additional steps I should take, documenting every unusual incident, keeping a detailed journal, getting a complete medical workup to establish my cognitive health, and securing statements from friends and colleagues who could attest to my mental clarity. Most importantly, Linda added, start educating yourself about technology. If they're using digital tools against you, you need to understand how they work. That advice led me to the local community college, where I enrolled in a senior computer class under the guise of wanting to keep up with the times. The young instructor, Sam, was patient and thorough, helping me understand how surveillance systems operated, how to check for spyware on devices, and basic digital security practices. Within 2 weeks, I had assembled a small but dedicated team of allies. Grace had secured my legal protections. Michael had installed counter-surveillance. Linda had briefed trusted contacts in law enforcement, and I had begun educating myself about the technology being used against me. All the while, I maintained my role as the slightly forgetful but cheerful mother and mother-in-law. I smiled through dinner conversations about assisted living options. I nodded when Amanda suggested helping with my finances. I pretended not to notice when Justin photographed my medicine cabinet or when Amanda deliberately moved items to confuse me. Each night alone in my bedroom, I updated my secret journal recording every false claim and manipulative action. I practiced using the secure email account Grace had established. I reviewed the photos Michael sent of evidence he was gathering. The most painful moments came when I watched Justin seeing glimpses of the son I had raised beneath the manipulated man he had become. Occasionally, I caught expressions of doubt or discomfort crossing his face when Amanda or her parents pushed particularly hard about my condition. In those moments, I held on to hope that he was not completely lost to me. As the pieces of my counter-strategy fell into place, I began to feel something I had not expected: a sense of empowerment. They had underestimated me, assuming that age had diminished my resilience, intelligence, and determination. They would soon discover how wrong they were. One evening, as I watered my garden roses, I allowed myself a small private smile hidden from the cameras I knew were watching. The trap they had set for me was about to become the very thing that would ensure their downfall. After 3 weeks of careful preparation, Michael Davis confirmed we had gathered sufficient evidence. The counter-surveillance cameras had captured Amanda checking and adjusting the hidden devices throughout my house. We had recordings of conversations between Justin and his in-laws discussing the fabricated incidents they were documenting. Michael had even obtained evidence of Amanda creating edited video clips designed to make me appear confused, taking normal moments out of context, or deliberately causing situations that would make me look disoriented. Most damning of all, we had captured Richard Thompson instructing Justin on how to transfer my investment accounts once the guardianship was established, specifically mentioning using the money for a new real estate venture rather than my care. Grace reviewed all the evidence and confirmed we had a strong case for both criminal charges and civil protection. Now we needed to confront them in a controlled environment where they couldn't manipulate the narrative. The element of surprise is crucial, Grace advised during our final planning meeting. They believe you're completely unaware and defenseless. That gives us a significant advantage. We decided that another family lunch would be the perfect setting for the confrontation. I would invite not only Justin and Amanda, but also her parents and sister, ensuring all the conspirators were present. I would also invite a few strategic guests of my own. The day before the planned confrontation, I visited Dr. Howard, my physician of 20 years, for a complete cognitive assessment. The results confirmed what I already knew. I was sharp as ever, with no signs of dementia or cognitive impairment. Dr. Howard provided a detailed report and agreed to be available by phone during the confrontation if needed. That evening, I called Justin at work, something I rarely did. "Mom, is everything okay?" He sounded genuinely concerned, which sent a pang through my heart. "Everything's fine, dear. I was thinking of hosting another family lunch this Sunday. Amanda mentioned wanting to continue our discussion about my future plans, and I thought it would be nice to have everyone together." There was a pause before Justin responded cautiously. "That sounds good. I'll let Amanda know." "Wonderful. Could you ask her to invite her parents and Brooke as well? The more the merrier." After hanging up, I made the rest of my calls. Linda agreed to attend as my old teaching colleague. Grace would come as my financial advisor. Michael would be there as my home security consultant. Margaret declined to attend as her connection might raise suspicions, but she would be nearby if needed. Sunday arrived with clear skies and mild temperatures. I spent the morning cooking, preparing all of John's favorite recipes. For what might be the last family meal in this house, I wanted to honor his memory and remind myself of what I was fighting for. By noon, everything was ready. I had strategically placed my own recording devices throughout the dining and living rooms, supplementing Michael's equipment. Every word and action would be documented. Amanda and Justin arrived first, Amanda immediately inspecting the table settings and rearranging the silverware to her liking. "The table looks lovely, Mom," Justin said, giving me a quick hug. "Can I help with anything?" "Everything's under control," I assured him, noting the flicker of surprise in his eyes. I had been increasingly playing up confusion and dependency in recent days, setting the stage for today's revelation. The doorbell rang as Amanda's family arrived, followed shortly by my guests. I performed introductions, watching Amanda's eyes narrow slightly at the unexpected additions. "I didn't realize we were having a party," she said with forced lightness. "I thought it would be nice to expand our circle a bit," I replied. "Especially since we'll be discussing such important matters today." We settled around the dining table, my allies strategically placed among the family members. I served the meal, maintaining light conversation about neighborhood news and the unusually pleasant weather. As dessert was served, Richard Thompson cleared his throat, clearly ready to take control of the discussion. "Scarlett, we wanted to continue our conversation about your living arrangements and financial planning," he began. "Amanda has taken the liberty of scheduling a tour at Silver Pines for next week." I dabbed my lips with my napkin. "That's very thoughtful. Before we discuss that, I have something I'd like to share with everyone." I nodded to Michael, who placed a laptop on the table and opened it. "This is Michael Davis, a private investigator who has been helping me with a rather disturbing situation." The atmosphere in the room immediately tensed. Amanda's smile froze, and Justin shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "What situation?" Diane asked sharply. "Justin, what is your mother talking about?" Before Justin could respond, Michael turned the laptop screen toward the table. "These are images of surveillance cameras installed throughout Scarlett's home without her knowledge or consent." The screen displayed clear photos of the hidden cameras in my bathroom, and throughout the house. Next, he showed footage of Amanda installing one of the devices in my reading lamp. "This is ridiculous," Amanda sputtered. "Those are safety monitors. Justin and I installed them because we were concerned about Scarlett's falls." "I haven't fallen once in the past year," I pointed out calmly. Michael continued. "We also have evidence of deliberate manipulation of Scarlett's environment to make her appear confused or forgetful." The next video showed Amanda moving my keys from the hook by the door and placing them in the refrigerator while I was in the garden. Another showed her removing pages from my appointment book and then later questioning me about the missed appointments. Justin's face had drained of color. "Amanda, what is this?" Amanda reached for his hand. They're taking things out of context, honey. You know your mother needs supervision. Grace stepped in, introducing herself as my attorney. We have documented over 30 instances of deliberate actions designed to create the appearance of cognitive decline where none exists. Dr. Howard's comprehensive assessment from yesterday confirms Mrs. Collins is completely mentally competent. She placed the medical report on the table. We also have evidence of a coordinated plan to establish guardianship fraudulently and misappropriate Mrs. Collins' assets. Richard Thompson stood up abruptly. This is outrageous. We were only trying to help a woman clearly in decline. These allegations are absurd. Linda, who had remained quiet until now, spoke up. As a former detective who specialized in elder abuse cases, I can assure you that the evidence gathered here constitutes multiple felonies under state law. She turned to Richard. Including criminal conspiracy, which I believe you discussed quite explicitly with Justin on March 15th while in his home office. Michael played the recording capturing Richard instructing Justin on how to transfer my investments once guardianship was established. The audio was crystal clear. The beauty of guardianship is that once it's established, the courts rarely question how the money is managed. We'll move her to the basic care package at Silver Pines and use the rest for our West Side development. Justin looked stricken. That's not what you told me. You said the money would be used for Mom's care. Don't be naive, Richard snapped. Your mother has far more assets than she needs for her remaining years. My remaining years? I repeated quietly. I'm 57, Richard, not 97. I turned to Justin, my heart breaking at the confusion and guilt washing over his face. This was never about caring for me, was it? This was about gaining control of the house, the investments, everything your father and I worked for. Amanda stood up, her composure cracking. This is a setup. You've always hated me, always thought I wasn't good enough for your precious son. Now you're trying to turn him against me. Brooke, who had been uncharacteristically silent, suddenly spoke. Just stop, Amanda. It's over. She looked at me apologetically. They did the same thing to Grandma Eleanor. I was too young to understand then, but I've felt guilty about it ever since. Richard turned on his younger daughter. Be quiet, Brooke. No, she insisted, tears in her eyes. Grandma wasn't crazy. You made everyone think she was so you could sell her house for that downtown project. She died thinking everyone had abandoned her. The room fell silent as the full implications of Brooke's confession sank in. Grace cleared her throat. Mrs. Collins has already taken legal steps to protect herself. New estate planning documents have been filed that specifically disinherit anyone who attempts to establish guardianship over her without clear medical necessity. She turned to Amanda and her parents. Additionally, we are prepared to file criminal charges for invasion of privacy conspiracy to commit fraud and elder abuse unless certain conditions are met immediately. What conditions? Richard asked, his lawyer's instincts clearly calculating risks. First, Amanda and her family will vacate this house today and cease all contact with Mrs. Collins unless specifically invited. Second, all surveillance equipment will be removed and destroyed. Third, any documents, notes, or records creating a false impression of Mrs. Collins' mental state will be turned over to us immediately. Justin looked devastated. What about me? My voice softened as I addressed my son directly for the first time. That depends on you, Justin. Were you a willing participant in this, or were you manipulated too? He seemed to collapse in on himself. They kept telling me you were declining rapidly. That if we didn't take action, you might hurt yourself or lose everything to scammers. I was worried about you, but some of the things they wanted me to document never seemed right. He looked up, tears streaming down his face. I should have questioned more. I should have protected you instead of them. Mom, I'm so sorry. The pain in his voice was genuine, but trust once broken couldn't be instantly restored. I believe you were manipulated, Justin, I said carefully. But you still participated. You still allowed cameras to be placed in my most private spaces. You still documented things you knew weren't true. Linda stepped in. Justin, your actions, even under manipulation, may constitute criminal behavior. Your best option is to cooperate fully with the investigation. Amanda tried one last desperate tactic. Justin, she's trying to separate us. Don't you see, she's always wanted to control you. Justin finally looked at his wife with clear eyes. No, that's what you've been doing. I've lost friends, changed jobs, cut off family, all because you gradually convinced me they were negative influences. He stood up, moving away from her. I won't let you do this anymore, not to my mother or to me. Richard attempted to regain control of the situation. This is all a misunderstanding that's gotten out of hand. Let's all calm down and discuss this reasonably. There's nothing to discuss, Grace stated firmly. Your options are to comply with our conditions immediately or face criminal charges. The evidence has been secured in multiple locations, so attempting to destroy it would be futile. As if on cue, there was a knock at the door. Linda answered it, admitting 2 police officers she had briefed earlier. They stood quietly in the entryway, their presence making the consequences of non-compliance clear. Amanda's family realized they were cornered. With barely contained fury, Richard agreed to the conditions, signing the documents Grace had prepared. Within hours, Amanda had packed her belongings and left with her parents. Justin, after signing his own statement of cooperation, moved to a hotel temporarily. The house fell silent as the officers supervised the removal of all surveillance equipment. When everyone had gone, except Linda, Grace, and Michael, I finally allowed myself to cry, the tension of weeks of performance releasing in deep, racking sobs. Linda put her arm around me. You did it, Scarlett. You fought back and won. But at what cost? I asked, thinking of the son, who now couldn't look me in the eye. Justin may never forgive himself, and I don't know if I can ever trust him again. Grace squeezed my hand. Healing takes time. You've taken the first step by standing up for yourself. Michael finished packing his equipment. I've worked dozens of elder abuse cases, Mrs. Collins. Most never get this far because the victim doesn't realize what's happening until it's too late. You should be proud of your courage. As my allies left, promising to check in regularly, I wandered through my suddenly empty house. The home that had witnessed my marriage, my son's childhood, and nearly my own undoing, now felt both foreign and entirely mine again. I touched the walls, the furniture, John's old armchair, reclaiming each space that had been violated by hidden eyes. In the quiet of the evening, I sat in my garden, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. For the first time in months, I felt truly alone, but not lonely, wounded, but not defeated. Tomorrow would bring more challenges, formal statements to the police decisions about pressing charges, the long journey of rebuilding or releasing my relationship with Justin. But tonight, I allowed myself to simply breathe freely in the home I had fought to protect, in the knowledge that I had been stronger than anyone, including myself, had believed possible. 6 months after the confrontation, I stood in the empty living room of my house on Maple Street, saying a final goodbye to the home where John and I had raised our family. After careful consideration, I had decided to sell the property, not because Amanda and her family had pressured me to, but because I needed a fresh start, without painful memories infusing every room. The legal consequences for Amanda and her family had been significant. Richard faced disbarment proceedings for his role in the conspiracy, and both he and Diane were charged with elder abuse and conspiracy to commit fraud. Amanda, faced with overwhelming evidence, accepted a plea deal that included probation, community service, and mandatory counseling. As for Justin, our relationship remained a work in progress. After extensive therapy both individually and together, we had begun rebuilding trust. He had divorced Amanda and moved to a neighboring city, starting over with a new job, and slowly reconnecting with friends he had lost during his marriage. "Are you sure about this, Mom?" Justin asked, carrying the last small box of keepsakes to my car. "It's not too late to change your mind." I looked around the empty space, seeing ghosts of Christmas mornings, birthday celebrations, and quiet evenings with John. "I'm sure. This house served its purpose. It sheltered our family through the best times and the worst. Now it's time for someone else to create their memories here." My new home was a bright, modern condo in a secure building near the city center, close to the library, where I still volunteered, and within walking distance of a vibrant community center for active seniors. The space was entirely mine, decorated to my taste without Amanda's improvements or John's lingering absence in every corner. The month after the confrontation, I had reached out to Margaret to thank her for her warning that had ultimately saved me from Eleanor's fate. Our coffee meetings became regular, and she introduced me to other women her age who shared similar interests. Gradually, I built a new social circle, independent of my identity as Justin's mother or John's widow. Grace Thompson had become both my attorney and my friend. With her guidance, I had completely restructured my estate planning, creating a clear framework that protected my autonomy while acknowledging the reality that I would eventually age and might someday need assistance. The difference was that now those decisions would be made on my terms, with people I truly trusted. I had also started working with a local nonprofit organization that educated seniors about their rights and the warning signs of elder abuse. My story, shared anonymously, had already helped several older adults recognize and escape similar situations. Each small victory in helping others reclaim their autonomy helped heal my own wounds. Linda had encouraged me to join a support group for survivors of family betrayal. The shared experiences and coping strategies provided comfort during the darkest moments of processing what had happened. In turn, I found purpose in mentoring newer members, showing them that recovery was possible. Perhaps the most unexpected development was my growing confidence with technology. After the initial trauma of discovering how it had been used against me, I had decided to master these tools rather than fear them. The community college courses expanded into a genuine interest, and I now help teach other seniors how to protect themselves online. Justin appeared in the doorway, interrupting my thoughts. "The real estate agent just pulled up. Are you ready?" I took one last look around, my eyes lingering on the doorframe where we had marked Justin's height every birthday until he surpassed John in his 16th year. "I'm ready." As we signed the final paperwork transferring ownership to a young couple expecting their first child, I felt a weight lift. The house would continue its purpose of sheltering a family while I moved forward into a life I had chosen for myself. Later that evening, in my new condo, with its view of the city park, Justin and I shared a simple dinner. "I keep wanting to apologize again," he said, pushing food around his plate. "But I know you said it doesn't help either of us to keep dwelling on it." I reached across the table and took his hand. "What helps is seeing you become your own person again. Your father would be proud of how you've rebuilt your life." "I still don't understand how I let it happen," Justin admitted. Looking back, it seems so obvious that they were manipulating both of us. "Manipulation happens gradually," I explained, thinking of the support group discussions. "They isolated you from friends who might have provided perspective. They created artificial emergencies to keep you reactive rather than reflective. They made you question your own judgment while positioning themselves as the only reliable authorities." Justin nodded slowly. "The therapist says it's a common pattern in coercive relationships. I never thought I could be vulnerable to that kind of control." None of us does, I said gently. That's what makes it so effective. The shame of having been fooled keeps many people from seeking help or even recognizing what's happening. We had variations of this conversation regularly, part of the healing process for both of us. The therapist had explained that Justin needed to process his guilt, just as I needed to process my sense of betrayal. Neither emotion could be rushed through or dismissed. After dinner, as we sat on my new balcony watching the sunset, Justin asked, "Do you think we'll ever get back to where we were before? When you trusted me completely?" I considered the question carefully. I don't think we can or should return to exactly what we had before. That relationship was between a mother and her child. What we're building now is a relationship between two adults who have both been wounded and are healing together. I squeezed his hand. I may never trust blindly again, Justin, not you or anyone. But I'm learning to trust wisely with appropriate boundaries and open eyes. That's actually healthier for both of us. As Justin left that evening, promising to call the following weekend, I reflected on how far we'd both come. The path forward wouldn't be simple or straight, but it was a path we were both choosing consciously, eyes wide open. In the quiet of my new home, I opened my journal, a habit I had maintained since the ordeal began. Once, a record of betrayal, it now documented my journey of recovery and growth. I wrote about the bittersweet feeling of leaving the house, my cautious optimism about my relationship with Justin, and my growing comfort in my new surroundings. I ended the entry with thoughts that had been crystallizing over the past months. Sometimes the people who hurt us most are the ones we love most deeply, but I've learned that true love never requires surrendering your autonomy or dignity. Real love builds up rather than diminishes. Real love respects boundaries rather than erasing them. And sometimes, loving yourself means fighting for your right to remain the author of your own story. I closed the journal and walked to the window, looking out at the city lights beginning to twinkle in the dusk. Tomorrow, I would meet with my seniors advocacy group. The week after, Justin would visit for dinner again. Next month, I planned to take a painting class I had always been curious about. Small steps, each one carrying me further along the path I had chosen for myself. The betrayal had nearly broken me, but in fighting back, I had discovered strengths I never knew I possessed. I had learned that age didn't diminish my worth or my right to self-determination. Most importantly, I had reclaimed my power to decide what my remaining years would look like, rich, with new friendships, meaningful work, and the joy of living authentically on my own terms. Have you ever had to stand up against people who claimed to have your best interests at heart, but were actually trying to control you? Or have you witnessed an older relative being manipulated by family members? I hope my story gives you courage to trust your instincts and speak up. Please like, subscribe, and share this video if it resonated with you, and let me know in the comments what steps you would take if faced with such a betrayal. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember that it's never too late to reclaim your power and rewrite your story.